Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. This is Bally's 1979 Star Trek pinball machine. We've been working on this for a while, and we've done a few videos on it. So if you haven't seen those yet, go back and check them out. If you click on our channel, they are the videos immediately preceding this one. Okay? We did a video where we showed the condition that it was in whenever we got it, and then we painted the cabinet. Okay, this was basically out in the middle of a field inside of an old mobile home that a guy was using for his party house, and it was pretty rough whenever we got it. Right, so we painted the cabinet, got that all cool. Then we did some touch up on the play field, reworked everything, got that all pretty good. Right. And then we did a video where we worked on the rectifier board in the back box here and the transformer. Got all that working good. And then we did a video where we worked on the regulator board here in the back box. Got that all looking good. We're still waiting on our filter cap though. We ordered one. And now we are on to the MPU. As you can see, there is a green LED on that MPU, and it's just slam locked up. And I'm going to remove it here in a minute, and you'll see why. It's in pretty rough shape. So we have ordered a brand new Alltek MPU for these Bally machines that we are going to slide in this thing, and it's going to have a brand new board in it, and everything will be cool then. Okay, so we still need to work on that. We need to work on this lamp board down here so we can get all of our computer controlled lights working. We need to work on the soundboard still. We need to put in 5 displays, and then we need to adjust everything and troubleshoot everything. So we still got a little ways to go on it, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out that MPU board. That's the next step. So basically what we did was we did the cosmetic stuff, but the power comes in from the wall, runs to the rectifier board and the transformer. If you look on the schematics, that's the first place it goes. So we did that first. And then the power ran up to here, did that next, and now the power runs over to the MPU so that the game can boot. So that's where we are now. So I'll pull out that MPU board and we'll check out the condition that it's in just for posterity's sake, because we're not going to fix it. So here is the board that was in it. I don't know if it's the original one from back in the day, but probably. Power comes in here, and this area down here is the reset section. Right. So this battery was placed at the bottom of the board to save settings, and but just a few, like the high score, the actual high score. So it does diagnostics, like bookkeeping, and like what you have the high score set at and stuff like that. You don't even need it. So the battery is to keep this 5101 chip, a little trickle going to it so that whenever the game's turned off, the chip doesn't forget its memory. But if you remove the battery and just have the 5101 in there, the game will still boot and play and everything's cool. It's just you can't... the first game you play, the displays will have weird numbers in them because it forgot its settings, but every time you turn it on. But you don't even need it. So they put a battery on here that was it added to the capabilities of the game by letting it remember the high scores and all of that after you turned it off, but it caused a lot more damage because what happened was the operators didn't change them out. So this battery has been on here a long time. It would be interesting to see if it's ever been replaced or if that's the original. And so after a while, it just starts leaking alkaline all over the bottom of the board, and it actually travels up the traces and starts eating it as it goes. So there's where the power plugs in. That's why on the previous video, we didn't even have the LED on. It's because the connection's there. I'm wrong. It's this side. The connections there are so corroded, and the actual pins themselves are too. Now here's the sad part. The pins in the harness are often just as bad. So we may have to replace every little pin in every one of those connectors. Very time consuming. Okay, so the power comes in, and when it's first turned on, this section here and this section is kind of like this, holds the reset line down low and then makes it go high to pin 40 of the 6800 that runs the board. So 6800 AMI on this particular one. Once that reset line goes high, the CPU boots and starts doing its thing. So the CPU, this is the RAM to save the settings like we were talking about. This is just the work RAM. It's a 6810, I believe. Am I right about that? I think so. And then the ROMs. There's usually 3 ROMs or 2 ROMs, but these 3 here I've never seen populated with anything. Sometimes there will actually be a socket there from the factory on some of the early ones, but I've never seen where it uses all the ROMs. So they had capabilities to expand it, but they never really did it. These are 6821 PIAs. So one of them does the switches and part of the displays, and the other one does, I think, some more of the switches and part of the displays or whatever. But as a PIA 6821 peripheral interface adapter. The displays themselves plug in up here. So this is your lines out to the displays. Switches here and switches here. And then I think the lamp lines come from here down to the lamp board, I believe. So you can see just the incredible amount of damage that's been done by that battery. Now, I have actually fixed worse than this. But since we're dealing with a pretty collectible game, which allows you to charge a little more for it whenever you sell it, and since this one's just so bad off, we're going to put a whole new board in it. If this board wasn't quite this bad, if the damage was just down here, I'd probably fix it and just put it back in the game. So if I was going to fix it, you would have to remove all this crap. I use sandpaper and just sand down to the traces and then neutralize it with vinegar. Rinse that off, let it dry, and then repopulate it. Because it's really not that expensive to replace all of this stuff. It's just there's a lot of stuff. So a bunch of little cheap resistors and capacitors and a few little cheap transistors, a couple sockets, right? But on this one it's pretty severe, and it's up under this socket, so you would have to remove that chip in the socket and put a new socket. And it's probably up under, see the corrosion there? It's up under this RAM socket, so you have to remove that, put a new socket. But once you got up to about here, you're all right. But even if you did that, you've got, all of the legs of all of these resistors are questionable. Right. And then somehow the back is usually even worse for me, because the front, it looks bad and it damages the components, but when it damages the back, it damages the solder pads, so it makes it harder for you to resolder the stuff back to the board, right? So the problems I usually run to are all this crap that's going on the back. This causes me more issues than the components, because you can take the components and throw them away, but once this trace is screwed up, now you're putting jumpers and stuff, and it's just a lot of work. So we're going to replace it. Now, luckily, many, many moons ago, I think about 2002 or so, this company, maybe a little earlier than that, this company, Alltek, made a brand new board to replace it. Now, think about the dates there. So that one's 79. And that would be, around, I guess they originally came out in 77. And then by 97-ish, or maybe a little bit later, Alltek was already making a reproduction board. So 20 years went by, and they came up with a new board. Well, it's now been like 25 years past that. Right? So this board here has been out longer than the original board. And the original boards, they only made till about 1983, 1984. when they switched over to their new system. So the original ones, they made a bunch of them because they were in all of the early Ballys, but they didn't really support it after that initial run of making them. I'm sure you could send it in and get it repaired, but they didn't make new ones anymore. Okay, so then Alltek comes along. They start making a reproduction board. I think there may be another company or two that makes them too, but this Alltek board rocks. I'm sure the other ones do too, but I know about these. It is Alltek Systems, the ultimate MPU board. Check it out. Look at it in all its glory. And so, I'm going to real quick go over what we're supposed to do here. Before you plug in the ultimate MPU board, review Table 1 on the last page of this manual to determine if the clock speed jumpers need to be changed for the game being selected. So, Stern made a more kick-ass version of this board, and so to play those, the MPU 200 games from All E and on, you have to move this little jumper. All the Bally ones, though, and the early Stern ones, you don't have to do that. So all the Bally ones to the right, the Stern ones to the newer, not newer, but the later model Stern ones to the left. So, where are we? Where are we? Ooh, it even smells new. Okay, so it is set up for Bally. They're on the right. If you moved them to the left, they would be set up for a Stern MPU 200. Okay, so we got that. If you have the old MPU board that you feel has the correct dip switch settings for game features, go ahead and make the Ultimate MPU board game features, dip switches 1 through 32, the same as your old board. If you choose free play mode, and we do, you will need to turn off the credit display game feature switch, which is typically switch 20 or 27 depending on the game. Refer to your original game manual. Okay, so what they're saying is, on the original board, there were all these dip switches over here. Right? And on the new board, they have added them in as well. So you can just set your new one like your old one. Okay? So we have 6 and 7 on the old one. Okay. We have 6, 7, and 8 on the second set. We have 1, 4, and 5 on the third set. And we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 8 on the last one. I mean, if we're going to play it, we might as well play it the way that Bubba played it. We're calling the guy that used to own it Bubba because he shot the pinball machine. There is an old country song called Bubba Shot the Jukebox. So we have christened this guy Bubba because he shot the pinball machine. Bubba shot the pinball machine last night. He said it played a bad game he didn't like. Okay, so we got all those set. Now, before plugging in the Ultimate MPU board, get a flashlight to get a good look at the connectors that are hanging in the top left corner of the head of the machine. Before plugging in the Ultimate MPU board, get a flashlight to get a good look at the connectors that are hanging in the top left corner of the head of the machine. If you have a Stern machine, you have 2 extra connectors for the soundboard. Visually inspect the cables for broken wires or bad pins. If you see any damage, you will need to repair this before continuing. Inspect the pins for corrosion. If you find any corrosion, further action may be necessary. Corroded pins could prevent your new board from working properly. Okay, we talked about that a little bit, and we probably will have some corrosion to repair. Okay, now here is the most important part of the whole thing. Ignore everything else I've said at your own peril, but this one, if you ignore it, you're screwed. Now, make sure the 5-volt power supply is functioning correctly. That didn't work as good as I wanted it to. You only need to do this if you're using an old solenoid driver board. If you have installed a new Alltek Systems Ultimate solenoid driver board, then move on to the next page. Yeah, man, clever marketing, Alltek Systems. I got to give you a hand on that one. That was awesome. So basically, the old board, if this power regulator up here screws up, it can, under certain circumstances, send out too much power. So you might end up with it shooting out 12 volts or some crap, and it'll fry your brand new board. So you really need to check this. You can just throw it in there without checking it, but you really need to check it, okay? So they're telling you that you're going to put the ground on the ground point there, and then you're going to check test point 1 and see what kind of voltage you have. And they want you to have between 4.9 and 5.25, okay? If your voltage is too high, if it's over 5.25, there is this thing that's going on with these regulator boards where there are some resistors over here where they're upping the power a little bit with those resistors. And so if you go look at our video that we did on the $6 Million Man pinball machine, we talked about that a little bit when we were working on the regulator. So we looked it all up, looked at the schematics, and figured out how to fix that. So if your voltage is a little bit too high, go check out that video. So basically you want it to be 5. Ours is 5.1. Perfect. We did that in the last video. Once the connectors and power supply have been checked, mount the new board into the game. Install the board by placing it on top of the plastic spacers. Plug in the connectors, 2 on the left, 2 on the right. Assuring that the connector keys line up for each connector. If you have a Stern game that has an auxiliary soundboard, plug this connector into the top connector, J5. Remember, on the Ultimate MPU board, the rightmost side of J5 is pin 1. Make sure you match up the pin 1. We don't have that. We don't have to worry about that. Power up. It's now time to set the MPU board for a specific game. Look at table 1 to find your game. If it's a Bally machine, decide if you want to set the dip switch for free play or normal game mode. Now, configure the game, select dip switch to the game that you own. Okay. So, here on the back, they give you all this, okay? So 1 is on. So we are doing Star Trek. Bam, there it is. We need to set the dip switch to 1101. There it is. And then on Bally games, to place any of the Bally games in free play mode, just place the leftmost switch in the on position. Okay? So that makes it free play. So let me explain something to you that caused me all kinds of trouble. It says, then turn off your credit display feature, which is either switch 20 or 27 of the game feature dip switches. Okay? So here's how I read that. I read, oh, now that it's on free play, you don't need the credit display, so you can turn it off. That doesn't work. If you have the credit display still turned on by these dip switches, the free play won't work. It took me forever to figure out what I was doing wrong. So I did that, and I skipped that step. I didn't turn off the credit display. And put the board in like a Bally. I had a baby Pac-Man I was using it in. Put it in the baby Pac-Man. It would not go on free play, and I couldn't figure it out. Eventually figured out it was because I didn't turn off the credit display. That's part of the setting. You have to do that. Okay, so we need to go figure out which one turns off the credit display. It's actually in the back box. It tells us on a little label. So the little label in the back box is deteriorated. I can't read it, but it says credit display in the manual. Credits displayed. Switch 20 we want to turn off. And that will fix that for us. All right, so 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 is now off. Our credit display is off, and it is on free play. Okay? So we have told it what game we want it to be. We want it to be Star Trek. Now, just so you know, if you wanted to, you could take this back out of a Star Trek, change the setting, and then put it in a different game, because it's got all of the ROMs stored in here. telling us how to set up the high score and all that. We're not going to really worry about any of that. Okay. So we're ready to pop it in the game. Now you'll notice it's not as big as the original. I'm trying not to touch the original with it. I don't want to get any of that ickiness on this my brand new board here. Look how nice that is. It's the same size width, so it'll fit on the rails in the back box, but it's half, little over half the size of the original board vertically. But on the original, see these little holes here for the mounting tabs? They have made provisions where it uses the same ones. It just doesn't use the top two. Very cool. So we'll pop it in and we'll see if she boots up. Okay, folks, so we went through and I had to repin this connector because the pins just looked horrible. So just like we did on our previous video, this is your part number for the terminals you want. Okay. Crimp new ones on. I haven't done any of the other connectors yet, but I figured I had to do that one because it's the power connector and you want to make sure that you're getting a good solid power over to the board or it's not going to do anything. Right? I've got all of my grounds for the solenoid board unplugged because I haven't tested any of the solenoids in the cabinet yet, see if any of them's any good. So let's try turning it on and see if it does anything. Now on this board there are some little LEDs right over here. We're going to want to get them to flash 8 times on this one. Now on most of them it's a quick flash and then 7 flashes, but on these newer boards it kind of just does 8 flashes. So the first flash is kind of like the reset, and then there's 7 more after that that are a self-diagnostic that it does when it boots up. So let's see if everything's cool. It's a new board with a new connector, so we should be good. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's pretty cool. The soundboard is still working. And we've got some of the lights working. We don't have any displays in it yet. And none of those lights are working. the blinking ones at least. So there's some computer controlled ones here that should be doing something, but I think this one maybe. So they're not doing anything, but we'll figure that out. Really, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's only 8 bulbs that are even trying. But considering the state of the connectors, and it looks like there's like a mud dauber's nest on the actual board, I can see why. So we've still got a bunch of problems with that. But the board appears to be up and running. So we're getting there. Oh, there's another one working. The 7 is working. So next thing we need to do is we kind of need to get some displays working so we can tell, you know, what it's trying to do. So the displays are missing out of this game, but we're going to go ahead and put LED displays in it. What do you think about that? So I have some LED displays here that we've been working on this game for a couple years, believe it or not, because the cabinet was in such bad shape. But I've got some LED displays that I bought a long time ago, but there was some issue with them. I can't remember what the issue was. I think I messed them up or something. Like I put the chip in backwards on one of them or something like that. So I'm going to go find those LED displays that we've had kicking around that I've been saving for this game. And we'll see if they still need put together. I thought maybe I already put them together or something, but I'll dig them out. I know what box they're in, and we'll see what's going on with them. There was something where I needed some LED displays for another game, and so I stole some parts off of this kit that was going to go in the Star Trek or something to that effect. So we're about to solve the mystery after all this time. But it's really cool to get our MPU finally installed in the game where it goes. I did put the screw that holds it in place back in it. There was another one that was up here for the original board, but that screw, there's no place for it on the new board. I'm probably still going to have to repin the other connectors. We don't know yet. jury's still out, but and may have to repin the connectors on the lamp board. So we're still going. Okay, let me find the displays though, and we'll see what we're starting with, and then we'll try to start getting some of those mounted in the cabinet so that we can see if make sure it's in a track mode and doing what it's supposed to do. All right, I found them, and they are already put together, but something. Let's look at them, okay? So I put these together, but I think what happened was I put them in a machine that messed them up or something, or I put the chip in backwards or something. That one looks fine. This one looks fine. This one has a socket with a chip missing. So I had two sets, and something happened where I was like building the other set and putting it in a machine. And then I was trying to cannibalize parts off this set, but then I figured out that, or I had built this set for the other machine or something, and I got all screwed up where I had to abandon what I was doing. This one has a socket, and then the other chip has a socket. Something weird going on there. And this one is just missing the chip. It looks like I put it in and removed it. So I messed these up somehow, so we're going to try to fix them. I think I figured out, though, that it was just I needed some of those chips, and I ordered them, and they're in the back room or something. But see, this is the kind of stuff that ends up stuck on your shelf. This is like $125 or something like that. These are the ones from Wolfpack, by the way. Wolfpack Tech. They do a really good job, and they're inexpensive, and you can build them yourself to save a little money, too. I built some to kind of show off on the channel. I did a video showing it, or a couple of them maybe. But this is the type of thing where, you got like money that you've spent sitting in a box, and I always wanted to put it in the Star Trek pinball machine, and we're finally doing it. Wait till we get to the back glass that we have for it. Right? So we're finally going to fix them, put them in the machine, and get some nice displays going. That connector at the top of the MPU, though, if it needs repinned, these will not work right. So who knows? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the ones that's still complete, like this one, and just put it in player one and see what happens. What do you think about that? And then we'll go through and test them one by one and see if we need to repin the connector or replace the chips that are, obviously we need to replace the chips that are missing, but just see if the other ones are fried or what's going on. So let's do it. So I mounted the first display, and that connector there looked horrible. So I went ahead and repinned it. So I replaced all of the pins. Look at all that. So you can see what a bad one looks like. When they're corroded and oxidized like that, but just from basically being open to the elements for so long, they're not going to make good electrical contact. So I put nice new shiny ones on, and that way we won't have to worry about any display issues from the MPU board. The displays themselves may still be screwed up, but it won't be the connections. Okay, so here is our first display. As you can see, it's all screwed up. Okay, I think that's what they were doing before, so I think I messed them up somehow whenever I had them in the other game. I don't think I can get my test to work yet. So that one has that issue. This is one of the ones that one chip that I had socketed on the other ones hadn't been replaced. I wish I could remember what the crap happened, but this one I hadn't messed with yet, so I'm imagining something's wrong with that chip that I removed off the other ones. So I'm going to get one of the ones with the socket and the chip missing and repopulate the chip, and then see if we can get one of them to give us a good display on this. I mean, a good image on this first display, and then we'll move on from there, because we still don't know if it still could be a wiring thing or something. But I'm pretty sure I screwed up something on the actual display. Okay, so the chip that was missing out of the sockets is a ULN 2003. So that's our issue. So I put one back in, one of the ones with an open socket. put one in this one with an open socket. I'll pop it in and see if it's also working, and if that's the deal, I'll just test the other ones, and whichever ones are screwed up, I will swap that chip. I don't remember specifically what I did, but I screwed something up whenever I was building them. Okay, here we go. Okay, folks, so let's check them all out. By the way, they're red. You can't really see it in the on the camera because the LEDs are so bright that you can't. The color changes, but they are all red, which is going to look awesome. Got them all fixed. Yeah, somehow I screwed up that chip on every freaking one of them, but not this time. By the way, just to be clear, it's not a mistake of the displays. They worked fine when I got them after I built them, but I messed something up. I put the wrong chip in the wrong spot or something like that. It was because I was working on another machine that had some problems in it. I screwed up a whole set of displays, but we have now fixed them and mounted them in their game, so that's pretty cool. So there you go. We've got a new MPU board in it. So just to recap, we've repainted the cabinet, got new side rails, painted the legs, leg protectors, right? Cleaned the playfield, touched up the worn areas on the playfield, repopulated the playfield after waxing it, all new rubbers and all that stuff. Okay, fixed the rectifier board, cleaned all that, repinned the connector. Fixed the regulator board, got all of that right. Fixed the high voltage unit, even though we're not using it because we're using the LEDs instead. On the regulator board, stay tuned on that though, because there's I think there's something going on with the solenoids. We'll talk about that in the next video. Put in the new MPU board, repinned 2 connectors so far. The display connector and the power connector, and then repaired 5 LED displays. Nice state-of-the-art stuff, you know, since it's Star Trek. If you don't know, the plasma ones you just can't get anymore. You can, if you've got used ones, you can fix them up, but you can't buy the actual plasma glass to put in the board, so you kind of have to do an LED update on that. But the good news is that the LEDs look really good that have been designed to replace that. So it's a pretty cool little upgrade. So that's where we're up to. So next, we need to work on the soundboard. We need to figure out if there's a problem with the solenoids. We need to work on the light board, which obviously wasn't working correctly because most of the lights in the playfield didn't work. We need to play it. We need to check out all the solenoids under the board, under the playfield, and all of the light bulbs under the playfield, and all of the switches under the playfield. So some guy shot this pinball machine and left it for dead in his trailer, and then the guy had the audacity to die, and we're slowly bringing it back to life. So if you didn't hear the whole story about where we got it, go back and watch the first video in this series. You can find all of the videos in order uploaded before this one on our channel. Go check it out. So I hope you enjoyed it so far. Give us a thumbs up for what we've done so far. Make sure to leave your comments down below on what you think. I think it's all going to turn out pretty cool. Can't wait. And make sure to check out my brother Donnie. If you don't know about that, my brother Donnie is literally my brother. And he has a channel here on YouTube, the My Brother Donnie channel. And if you like watching us work on old pinball machines, you'd probably like watching us work on old cars, old trucks, old buildings, stuff like that. So he gets more into that kind of stuff. And I'm usually over there helping him on some of it. So go check that out. And we'd like to thank everybody that's been using our Amazon links. If you don't know about that, if you're going to buy anything on Amazon, like a lot of people do, there's a link down below. And on our website, lionsarcade.com, there is a parts page with a bunch of links to different things on Amazon. If you follow any of those links to Amazon, and then you buy anything on Amazon after you follow that link, it gets recorded as we sent you there, and it gives us a tip. So we appreciate that. We get a little bit of your purchase price, whatever you buy. So thank you for that. Hope you enjoyed it so far. I think she's coming along nicely, but there's still a long ways to go, people. So we'll see you on the next video. Y'all have a good night.